Good morning. Good morning, chiefs, delegates. We will be getting underway very shortly. So I'd like to say good morning. My name is Adam Fiddler. I am from Sandy Lake First Nation, Northern Ontario. I will be one of the co-chairs for this assembly. So we just have some quick housekeeping matters. We will be getting underway very shortly. One of the reminders, delegates, the assembly will be undertaken in both English and French, of course. And of course, our co-chair, Weena Siwi, will be making her housekeeping comments in French. So we'd like to ask everybody to please make sure we do have simultaneous translation. We ask everybody to grab a headset. In the back, I believe it's in the back corner. If you can grab a headset, we want to make sure that everybody understands the full discussion in both English and French. At the same time, I ask everybody to take your seats, as I just asked you to get up and get your headsets. But I will ask the discussion to end. If you have any side room discussion, please take it out into the main foyer area out in the hall. But we will be getting started with a grand entry quite quickly. Just a reminder, this is a hybrid session. We are meeting in person. We are also meeting on Zoom. There is also the ability to join and vote and participate virtually, of course, on Zoom. So participants will be participating here in the meeting room as well as on Zoom. Of course, very standard, if we can have everybody please mute your telephones. And remember that there is order and decorum as part of the assembly. A very important part is respect. That we have respect for the assembly of the chiefs in assembly, and that we conduct business in an orderly fashion with respect and recognize each other as chiefs and proxies. Also a reminder, if you are joining online, anybody that wishes to speak or address the assembly is to come to the microphone and you will be acknowledged. If you are joining virtually, you must hit the raise hand function and the co-chairs will have you recognized, and then you will have the ability to speak. Any chat that happens on the virtual forum is just side room chat. It's like chatting out in the hallway. As co-chairs, we don't have access to that chat box, so anything that is said in the chat box is not official business, it is not formal, and I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. So with that, again, welcome everybody. We look forward to a great assembly. We are about to get started with the grand entry, but at this point, I'm going to turn it over to co-chair Weena Siwi to introduce herself and make some comments in French. Miwe nanakum gaisig nanakum amandu nogum gagijgak magamawachi dik nabaksenem Chui mun sig, we mawachi dun. Miwe, miigwech.
Miigwech, thank you, co-chair Adam. First time we collaborate together, but I assure you, you will feel the strong team spirit we already have together. So, bonjour, thank you all to be here, welcome here. Kwe, I'm gonna address some words, some housekeeping messages in French, so please, if you didn't have done that yet, please go and get your translation device in the back of the floor. Alors, l'Assemblée est prévue de commencer dans une dizaine de minutes, 5 minutes environ, mais j'aimerais commencer par me présenter. Alors, et vous donner quelques messages importants. C'est une assemblée annuelle générale, une assemblée annuelle spéciale de l'Assemblée des Premières Nations et c'est une assemblée hybride. Alors, vous voyez, on a des collègues, des chefs, des mandataires et aussi des observateurs, donc toute une délégation qui pourra assister en ligne, en personne et au téléphone également. Pour l'instant, j'ai eu la confirmation qu'il n'y avait personne par téléphone, mais si cela change, je vous le mentionnerai. Alors, que vous soyez, peu importe que vous soyez en personne, virtuelle ou au téléphone, bienvenue. Merci d'être ici avec nous pour ces 3 journées d'Assemblée spéciale annuelle. Et je souhaite reconnaître que l'Assemblée se tient sur le territoire traditionnel Anishinaabe. Et on remercie la Nation Honte, la Nation Anishinaabe, pour son accueil. Mon nom, Wina Siwi. Je suis Huron-Wendat et je suis aussi membre de la Première Nation Anishinaabe Abitibi-Winni, qu'on connaît souvent aussi sur le nom Picogan. Alors, les 2 nations, Wendat, Abitibi-Winni, sont au Québec. Je vais être votre co-facilitatrice bilingue, donc en anglais et en français. Et je voulais simplement aussi vous dire, je suis avocate. C'est probablement mon plus gros défaut, mais comme j'ai un sourire, souvent ça passe mieux. Mais ça peut être utile. Je suis aussi médiatrice. Ça peut être utile dans le cadre d'une assemblée. Alors, s'il y a des questions plus techniques, on est tous les 2 ici avocats, alors on comprend bien les nuances. Et donc, c'est un honneur pour moi d'être ici et d'agir comme votre coprésidente. Mais mon rôle comme coprésidente, ça va être d'assurer, de faciliter les discussions et le processus de prise de discussion qui entoure les résolutions entre les représentants inscrits. C'est important de comprendre que les représentants inscrits, ce sont les chefs et les mandataires. Chefs et mandataires, ce sont les seuls qui ont le droit de parole et le droit de vote. Alors, il y a 3 façons d'adresser l'Assemblée. Donc, vous voyez les microphones. Il y a un microphone 1, microphone 2 dans la salle. Il y a aussi la fonction main levée en ligne. Alors, bonjour à ceux qui sont en ligne. Bienvenue, bonjour. Et sachez qu'il y a l'interprétation aussi simultanée français et anglais, en ligne également. Sachez aussi que le chat ne sera pas surveillé par les coprésidents. C'est seulement pour des communications internes ou une assistance technique, par exemple. Alors, pas d'amendement, pas de communication à l'Assemblée par le chat. C'est important. Et moi, ce que je trouve extrêmement important dans mon rôle, c'est de s'assurer le respect d'un environnement sécuritaire, respectueux de tout le monde ici et de s'assurer de pouvoir parler et de pouvoir être écouté dans un calme et un respect. Alors, c'est ce que je nous souhaite et ce que je vais veiller à m'assurer tout au long de l'Assemblée. Et pour respecter aussi la diversité de nos nations, sachez que, la traduction anglais-français, c'est le respect de la diversité de nos nations à travers le Canada, à travers Turtle Island. Mais il y a aussi la traduction, l'interprétation, en langage des signes, LSQ, ASL et Oneida qui sont disponibles. Alors, bravo, et on aura une présentation un peu plus tard, justement. Et ensuite, avant de commencer la rencontre officiellement, je vais maintenant vous demander, s'il vous plaît, de prendre place avant que l'on commence officiellement. Je voulais simplement aussi vous dire l'ordre dans lequel nous allons utiliser les moyens de s'adresser à l'Assemblée. Alors, on va toujours suivre le même ordre. Nous allons d'abord aller au microphone 1, ensuite microphone 2. Petite observation, on ne surveille pas qui est arrivé le premier au microphone. Alors, on alterne simplement microphone 1, microphone 2. Alors, sachez que s'il y a une ligne qui est longue, c'est peut-être mieux d'aller à l'autre micro qui a moins de monde. C'est juste stratégique, mais on ne regarde pas, on ne prendra pas note qui est arrivé en premier, quelle seconde de plus. Là, ce n'est pas une course. Alors, microphone l'ordre et microphone 1, microphone 2. On ira ensuite sur Zoom pour voir les mains levées. On continuera pour le téléphone s'il y a lieu. Ensuite, on continue 1, 2 et ça continue comme ça, 1, 2 en ligne. Alors, ce sera notre façon de commencer, d'adresser les chefs et mandataires qui souhaitent s'adresser à l'Assemblée au moment opportun. Alors, on va commencer officiellement, mais il me reste à vous souhaiter une excellente semaine. Thank you. Thank you. I love silence. I hope in the back you can hear me because I can hear you as well. So this is a message for you. And so welcome here. Please take your seats. We are ready to begin. This assembly will now come to order. Okay, it is now 10:07. The assembly come to order. Procession will start the openings with the grand entry. And I will now call upon the host drum, the Eagle River Singers, to start the grand entry. And Larry in the back, I assume you're ready to start the grand entry. So, the grand entry, please.
please remain standing? Again, we would like to acknowledge the Eagle River Singers and the drum for the opening. As the remainder of the procession makes their way to the front, I will give the drum an extra few seconds to prepare to continue as part of the grand entry. And we will now ask the drum to render the flag song.
Now we'll give some seconds for the Eagle River Singers to catch their breath. And we will, after then, have the Eagle River Singers to sing a veteran song. When you are ready.
Hey!
Miigwech, thank you. So I'll now call upon the flag carriers to post the flags. And I will ask our elder, who will be doing the opening acknowledgements, to please make your way up to the podium. Again, miigwech to the drum, miigwech to the Eagle River Singers for the opening songs and opening this assembly in a good way. That concludes the grand entry. So miigwech, thank you. Please remain standing, though, for the opening acknowledgements with the elder, but you can return to your seats if you were part of the grand entry. Again, we will be having our opening acknowledgements with the elders, so if we can please very quickly return to your seats so that we can continue as part of the opening protocols. Thank you very much. And any side discussions, please put on hold for now. If we can cut the discussion, go outside if you need to have those discussions. But we would like to invite Anishinaabe elder from Kitigan Zibi, Elder Rose Boudouin Wawate, to do the opening acknowledgement this morning and to open the session for the next 3 days in a good way. So with that, I will turn it over to our elder. Please remain standing.
Kwekena, miigwech kidenam kinu magagi bishaik. Ki kedovan weni shomas weskets, kino gimin gomtonsets. Kesen godin gigisjuk, genegas kudadmen, ki kedovan. Nogom da shasig maudo semen ma, kino wesh kabio da siat nisnabek, adi do gotse negisiats. Ninda swing get menenda negi wedge magwan nogum. Kijibi tineo de manganin. Kawine kangin the sea no gabuyan. Ngi wedge maban godan says Maurice and Kathoban. Adi this nin is now going the Nikiwin, Ngi Nugban. Kinwing get 6 kiton and nigans and niga in Ninak. Oh, kiss. Gegeneges gagon ginek. Gegebeeld de segon. Kom am katje nidne zien ginek. Nogum gitsmen dan as je gineges manga gi with mosepen says pam si matats. Kan ik kan ginen de zien ma. Gitsbina ni buyan. Kino wish. En de snabik. Kav de siat kijbina ni boats kijin de tofiat. Kijse bedoan nagos kadadwin. Kai gan mo de moats. Ngit semenen dan dus. Ma ebi shigabu ema ebi Isigabuyan mamoy ginwa. Gwe, my name is Rose Wawari Bodwe. I was born and raised in Rapid Lake. My grandmother delivered me in a log cabin. She was the first one to give me her teaching when I was born. She held my head. For me, this is what I believe, because she was giving me this acknowledgement. But I never knew that I would be standing here in the front, greeting you all. I'm a member from Kitagan-Zibi. I'm married into Kitagan-Zibi. I am very proud of my two communities. I am very proud and honored to represent my First Nation, Anishinaabe. And I welcome all of you in the Algonquin Anishinaabe territory. For me, I'm a residential school survivor. I was taken away from my community, Rapid Lake, and moved to Kenora. No place I don't know. They stole me from my reserve to bring me someplace I didn't know. But I also met a lot of young people, children that happened to do the same thing to them. And as a woman, we have to balance ourselves, men, women. Without neither, there wouldn't be a balance. Our mother, Mother Earth, just like all her children that she gave birth to, we all depend on Mother Earth, on Turtle Island. That she is upon water. And water we all have to protect. Nobody can say that they don't know about water because we were all born. Our mother, when she carried us, we were in water. So we are the protectors. And our teepee, it represents our woman that wears a skirt, the shelter that we go to. So for me, when I was asked to come here to represent my nation, I'm very honored. Because that's what my brother had said, and like I had just mentioned in my opening in my Anishinaabe Mwin. I had asked him, "You're such a good leader, Morris." He was just a leader. He wasn't a chief or anything, but he was a leader. Just before he passed away, I asked him, I said, "What am I supposed to do? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I admire you for leading your people and gathering in meetings in our territory," I told him. And he told me, "Kesh, wait. It will come to you. You're not going to go and look for it. It's going to come to you, and you're going to know." And I never forget that when he had told me that. And like the elders had said, they sing in their songs that and I always remember that. So here I am today doing an opening for all nations throughout Canada. And that's why I welcome everybody to the Anishinaabe Algonquin unceded territory. As a woman, I welcome you too, because we cannot be put aside. We have to be equal, men and women. Without the other, we wouldn't be surviving. And when I was asked to do an opening prayer, I was kind of not happy with the word prayer. Because as a residential school survivor, that's all a 5, 6 years old did in the residential school. So it brings me back that memories of my childhood going to school, residential school. But for me, when I do an opening, it's the creation I thank. I thank the creation, and this is how I address my thanks to our Creator. And when I walk my talk and talk my walk, this is what it is. Without the other, I wouldn't be able to just be standing. I was very fortunate that I do speak my language fluently. That was my first language. I was forced to speak this language I'm speaking to you now. That's why I did my opening in my Algonquin Anishinaabe Moon, to talk about my family, my people, our Mother Earth, our waters on Turtle Island. I am going to explain to you or tell you as to what I say in my opening thanks to the Creator. I acknowledge the day when I wake up. I acknowledge the sun, the moon, the stars, the sky, the clouds, the unknown that we don't see up in the sky. I acknowledge the wind. This is why we breathe. And then I acknowledge and give Him thanks for the trees, the shrubs, all our medicine, all type of trees. There are many, just like us. We're all individual, but yet we're the same. I thank for the beautiful flowers, the fruit that it gave us, our medicine. Then I acknowledge the animals that walk in our territories, that gives us food, the fish that swim in the water. I acknowledge all what in the water. Then I acknowledge the birds that fly in the sky, the eagle and all the other birds. They're all different, but they all use the same air to fly. So this is how I give my thanks to the Creator. And I acknowledge the four elements, the 4 directions. This is what I acknowledge. This is what I give thanks to our Creator on Mother Earth. I give thanks for our belief, what our ancestors, grandmothers, our parents teach us to give thanks to every day. Our Anishinaabe Moin, our ceremony, which is very important, language we speak. And our laws, our Anishinaabe laws, our nature law. I give thanks to the Creator. I give thanks to the Creator because He left us, our elders, to teach us all this. Then I acknowledge the Creator for our family, our youth, the sick that abuse themselves so that they could get help. I acknowledge that are sick within their bodies and so that they could get well, them too. And I acknowledge and I give thanks to our Creator for the water that's very important to each one of us, sacred to all of us. And the most important is I acknowledge our fire. It gives us warm when we need it. We cook in there when we're hungry, so whatever. This is what I acknowledge and give thanks to. For me, this is how I do my opening, what I say in my opening. So it's not that I have anything against any religion. It's up to you. For me, I choose this in my language to give thanks to our Creator on Mother Earth, on Turtle Island. So now, and for me there today, I acknowledge the missing and murdered woman. For me, give my condolence to the 4 women that have been brutally murdered. Acknowledge that. Today, I wear a white ribbon to acknowledge them. I wore red to acknowledge our missing and murdered woman. I wear my jewelry and speak my language to acknowledge who I am and to never forget. It's not that I ever forget. I live it. And I know for me, you guys came a long way, and we're all going to work together. We go idokudadaman. Igundatadaman. Kawin we ko gusto sing dinaboda kuda kui kumandlenjagan. We are going to help and listen. Nobody can read minds. So this is where we are today to express, talk, and speak, whatever. And this is what the meeting is all about. So for me now, I'm going to my thanks to our Creator in my language. And this is, I told you, it's all as to what I am saying in my Anishinaabe. Miwas de benjiges, nogum kagishigik. Miwas nogum megi uda sabsaman egishigik. Miwas kizes de bekizes unogos kui ne sewin sitaga gamagets. Miwas gidenan uji mistagokene negisias skikiatek minen. Kinga gintawitino madrodrum. Miwas gidenan. Kidawesis manankene negisis. Igos manan. Kibenesis manan. Can we say negisias miwas gidenan? Newan wedge nuik miwas gidenan. Newan is now sejik pe mad sejik. Miwas gidenan. Miwas gidenan. Musum nango kumus manano do that naka gibi kanamagi arch. Ogukna maginya, uday wit moinya sa girin, pen moin. Nakuna gain, no makak. Me wes denat, they benjigas can already. Buksen ma de benjigas, gizindu ajan, kagip kesiot umiknawa. Ism the madziot. Buksen ma de benjigas. Giziwi do ajan. We all kaka akwaziot, the madzic, we know Dan, Kingy Dan, squeezing in a jikak. Moscow pit and dago kumagit the madzic, me wetted in Nibi, can I wake up in the Mutsin Bini? Spanagan a big on with the mad, the see me wet the skin de venjigas. Me was good in Muzi. Gediscudemnan. Kabje tu ik het zigizig. Zidi bakwe ik jigis ozik. Oh nee, ik had niet kiezen dan. Kagige, Egyptskinek, gediscudemnan. Mi was gedenen de benjiges. Springegong unique aan, zou in mission, de benjiges. Mi was discudenen. Miigwech. Thank you.
Miigwech, thank you very much to Elder Rose Baudouin Wawate. You may be seated. So with that, as we continue with the opening ceremonies, we'd like to introduce ourselves again as your co-chairs. Na dadjwe gabo ndijnkaz. Ego name ben dodem. Nego zagening donji. Ego nanakuma migweche nag awexcheha gagipakanang. We mawechi don. Ego mi baksen mian jwi munsig en nakumag madegan. Kagi nagamwaj kagi pakanamwaj. Ego en baksen jwi munsig. Nanakuma mando no magijgak maga mawachi dik. Ego baksen mian jwi munsig we doesn't. So again, just a quick introduction. My name is Adam Fiddler. I introduced myself in my language. I am from Sandy Lake First Nation. I am a lawyer. I am Anishinaabe. I speak Anishinaabe. And it's a great honor to be here with you, Chiefs, and to assist as co-chair for this assembly. One of the mandates we have, of course, is to maintain order, maintain decorum, and have that respect within the assembly, respect with different views, different understandings, that we have a professional, positive discussion, and that we have respect amongst each other. And as co-chairs, we will be following not our rules, but we will be following the rules and protocols that you will be giving us to follow in order to maintain that decorum and respect in this assembly. So with that, Miigwech, I'll turn it over to co-chair Weena Siwi.
Thank you very much, Adam. First time we co-chair together, and I can feel the spirit of the team already, and so I'm really happy to be here, and it's an honor for me. I will now turn in French to respect the diversity and the balance of our of the fact that we spoke both English and French for reasons that we all know. So, bonjour, mon nom est Weena Siwi, je suis Huron-Wendat et membre de la Première Nation Anishinaabe Abitibi-Winni, qui est aussi connue sous le nom de Picogan. Les deux nations, la nation Wendat et la nation Abitibi-Winni, sont au Québec. Et je serai votre co-chair avec Adam, et je serai votre co-chair bilingue anglais-français. it will be a good time to go and get your translation device if you can't understand what I'm saying. This is a good tip that translation device would be needed because it's going to be a bilingual assembly. Alors, donc, comme le mentionnait Adam, nous allons respecter vraiment l'importance de respecter un environnement sécuritaire, respectueux ici, respectueux de l'ensemble de la délégation, que vous soyez ici en personne, virtuel ou par téléphone, vous êtes tous et toutes aussi importants les uns les unes que les autres. Alors, on est là pour vous et pour faciliter les discussions, pour s'assurer que la semaine se déroule de façon agréable et qu'on puisse passer à travers le travail très important que l'on doit faire. Maintenant, je reviendrai plus tard sur certaines règles importantes, mais premièrement, j'aimerais remercier les Eagle River Singers et le drum pour la grande entrée. Et j'aimerais dire un chi miigwech to the elder for her opening prayer. And it is now the time for the welcoming remarks by the host officials. And we will now hear two openings by the host officials. So we will hear first sorry, I promoted, or I don't know if I retitled you. So Chief Dylan White Duck from Kitigan-Zibi first, and then we'll hear Ontario Regional Chief Glenn Hare. So please join me welcoming Chief Dylan White Duck for the host official remarks. Thank you. Merci.
Okay, thank you. Minoshaba, Kwekakana, Ogama Wabushishi, Nindijnakas, Kitigan-Zibi, Anishinaabe, Ndonjaba. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dylan White Duck. I'm Chief of Kitigan-Zibi, Anishinaabe. And I'm here to speak today, to welcome you. I had this big fancy speech that I was going to prepare and say, but I think it's best to always speak from the heart and just wing it. For me, this is a proud moment for me. The reason being I'm saying this is like speaking at the Super Bowl. This is our Super Bowl, really. That's the way I feel. And, you know, I'd like to acknowledge first our National Chief, Roseanne Archibald, who works day and night and advocates for our people across Turtle Island. The regional chiefs here at the table here today. All First Nation chiefs and councils elected by your membership, tribal councils. It's a sacred duty, I feel, to be a chief, to work for your people. And I think we take that title for granted. And the reason I say we take it for granted is you only have so much time to work for your people. And for me, it's an honor. And you should all feel proud. That's the way I feel. I want to acknowledge the staff of the AFN as well, who works day and night. And I have a profound appreciation for staff being an elected official and a chief. Because without your staff, nothing moves. And I always say this, you work at the pace of your people and your administration. And I see that time and time again here at the Assembly of the First Nations, the dedication of all the staff that works day in and day out for this assembly. So I want to acknowledge those. The drum, I'd like to acknowledge the drum here this morning. It was great to see our fellow Anishinaabe people drumming. Also want to acknowledge our elder here, Rosna Bodway, for the opening remarks. Wate. She just whispered at me, Wate. I hold this feather here today, and it kind of got stuck in my little satchel thing here. And that's a bad sign. I don't know why. I just want to briefly discuss what happened this past July and the integrity of who we are as chiefs. I felt like was somewhat compromised. Our integrity is so important, being chiefs, representing your First Nation. Integrity. We have to continue with this. This week, I'd like to see us try and get through and work together as chiefs to get through all the resolutions we have to get through. What happened in the past, and it's time to move on and work for our people. That's why we're here today as elected officials and chiefs and councils and proxies. So please work together. That's all I could say. We all have to work together. I don't know the Anishinaabe-Moan word for working together, but that should be the new motto. Today I'm speaking on behalf of the Kitigan-Zibi Anishinaabe. And I want to raise the concerns, and I implore the government in Canada to listen to some of these demands that I'm going to speak of here right now. The Rights of Indigenous Reconciliation Table process for negotiations for First Nations across Canada is not working. And many chiefs here today know this table, are part of a table like this. And I'll be honest, it's not working. I implore the government of Canada to change this process at once. I want to commend and acknowledge my mentor, our former Chief Jean-Guy Whiteduck, who filed an Aboriginal title claim in 2016 on December 8th, almost to this day. And the reason why I bring up the RSD table is because we're leaving this table, because Canada's not working with us. And many of you probably have a similar situation, but we're leaving this table. And I'd like to thank and commend the BC Nation Chilcotin for your tremendous victory and moving us forward in a process of recognized title. When I speak of title, it's title to the land. And Kitigan-Zibi will be moving forward on our title litigation case on downtown Ottawa and LeBreton Flats. So I want to commend the BC Nation and Chilcotin. And I want to mention to all those investors and developers, tread cautiously if you're developing on a subject title territory and lands, because we never surrendered and we never ceded that territory. And many First Nations around here in this room have never surrendered it, and they have unceded title to their territories. And I acknowledge the Treaty First Nations too that got something beneficial for your nations. With that being said, I want to thank you for giving me this chance to speak here in front of you all today. I want to also mention it's good to see a lot of chiefs working together. That's the key. And I want to welcome you to our ancestral and unceded, unsurrendered Algonquin Anishinaabe territory. In conclusion, I want to thank everyone for being here today. Integrity, hope, compassion, that's what we need here this week. So I want to acknowledge the feather I'm holding today. It was gifted me today. I have 3 feathers here, actually. One's from my grandmother, one's from my mother, and one's from a former national chief. And this is the feather I'm holding today, is Ovid's feather that he gifted me. And I want to thank him for that because this is a nice gift from him. So I want to thank you, everybody. Welcome to our territory. Enjoy the next few days, and let's work together. Miigwech.
Chief Miigwech, Chief White Duck. And I will now invite Ontario Regional Chief Glenair for the welcoming remarks. Thank you.
Ah, bonjour. Bonjour. Gdyd mycornym cyna mi wetendam byd gwsnau gen unrhyw sy'n dyn bang Ontario. Gdyd mycornym cyna. Gwen gos gen un dys na cas checking do'n jib nid om nysing. Gemakwe, National Chief, Executive, Gay Norwandak, Gwijna Kimak, Kinagego Abdek Washit Gang. Get Sijik, Cook Masnanik, Mashum Sananik, Gesh Nijik, Miwech. Gagino, me action, the Manash Wanda, one egan Sijik, the one maybe that thought man the Nakin, Miwech all game and Ajan the Gid was snort. Pigeni enigma gomanda nakin. Jishkeke ki pambede kinem zwe. De kwemge gi nanada ge gi maxe. Apshwa snagen moing gi meudona. Manda shi unango minod ma. We be the kuguing. Dan is Shimgat again with Kidok. Book said Minim, Kinna, and Ching, Nungushinda. Chadap the make, Egi, no. Jim the dap of the make, we be the Kogoing. We me got the Ming man didn't just kick. Rashugani Nan Ching, the dap none way. Minagon the queb. Me, Yabe, and Giat in the queb. They wet on our way. Book said Minimsku Kinagani, Gagin men changed in the Dubna Dap of the Mengwe, Menax Dubno Chimananik. Pige Enigmagon, Ye Kit, Gobzindo Nimkina, Gobzindam. Ningan Dinian, not Madwin. Gashiwetan Bejik Dowsy. Mat boko gay no ge mak. No bo said mak gay no gek. Ge get nim ne ge go, but tak kagna. Kunen nok ne ki ne kay. We nak dench ge dench buying. Ki me the kunen nim nak. Gay no she was nak zo gek. Nano me ngi nad mong gwes. And Jagabak in the ding. Upshugungis nuggets, Gamigi Hita. Mabo the name the bit knock nigger and Menjagunung. And Jagabak in the ding. Geekwes Mick. Anish Nicken Daswin a yaman. Guide night question see you. Get quetto shrigo. Wet gay get quetto. Me mande abdek wan nigan bedek nakin e yaming. We've nabaji skying. We've schools ya gdam no jiminanik. Gay no shendang wading the madbok gek. The question upon in the name of Jikabopski, Jik knock nagavan gay no by Mudos in the Adwa, gay go Toronto, the Queen's Park named the boat. Nim the Chingano, don't watch him or the. Kitchit toes a minine. Kinnish den ching. Mich wette be piscad when the go up skejek. Bedap the mod de ben ming. Nishkesh no go yabe e jebsing. Abdek we wex doing we. Gnun de senakke. Eskabni gdana batin me. Kdabnu jibin ana gegi no gego, quishige me, gego we yaming, namage we shunia king, me the shebat tashning, kaidepses nukke. Gay abde katin, quina kito nawe. Jishkike, beban bede, kokdon senet up nagadek na quain ge, next nagadinj bang. Kdabnu jibin ana gmajaug. Mi we basic update or me coming, we should join inch buying. We not such again, gin way we not then mang the no Jiminic. Yauk and keep talking, a ken not wish kick. I went to Jaganash. The no Jim Kenda Sugni, the no Jiminic. Mandake in a snab even a yaman, gagino in a kino, keen make the bendanawe. Whenever that Thompson on the snab and with a quest carding. Nimne gego temgat one me coming. When the Gandhi Chigas chick James Smith Cree Nation McQueen Makain and Gugek. Snugget Jebakwe. Me just man the basic debate the marsh. Gagin with Jayang of Gagin range buying gay no we should turn our Rasgun and go you meet Gazoksonia. We knock it in gang Shane Kane. Skekkeneke, we knock den mang them no Jimanic. Just take we, object scoot, tum, ki, quindom dana. Manda Canada age gadek. Up tradition of the Gazami with the muted Jonas, muted Kadao, the Kidok on the Kenaway, much go again Jabang, where muted Nishin of the we are in Kidok. Guide West Yuk, Gagniske Gypsy. We know what come then Dawzok. We know we can be doing our Dana Junia. We kid out way. Mnashanin, give we do Kage, give week me go. On the Gemark, Shashu Gano, Senegan, the best big elk, Gano, we'd been more, was moin. Manashnet Kinnegeo am Daman Mugain, but Kinna was moin, Nam Kameke didn't got a Jashgo, we do Kage Gemak. Nishin. Migek Pibangi Shem the Bengego Nigan Shine. Next Sabun Jashgo Jene, we do Kagia. Nungushin the Nani Buana Quenma, Elmer Coshain. Kinoki Kenma Elmer. Hasap Kenmana Benochi, baby Sinchik. Kegon and Mark Benochi. Mission the Nunga mounted in Genje. Kenon Gooding sent the mother book. Book send them. Kegon and Mark baby Sinchik. Good morning, Chiefs. I'm so honored to have time with us, Nishnabek, that nobody cut me off using my language. Being which. My name's Glenn Hare, my Nishnabek name's Gwingos. I'm from Chiging First Nation, Manitoulin Island here in Ontario. I welcome each and every one of you on Zoom to Ontario. I welcome you. It's a good place. National Chief, I welcome National Chief, the executive, co-chairs, and more importantly, our boss, and that's the drum. Chimigwech. I got elected as your Ontario Regional Chief in the middle of COVID a year and a half ago. I'm a big supporter to advocate and to voice to each and every one of us and to our kids to get the vaccine shot. Is it good? I don't know, but I feel good. I feel peace of mind. And more so, when I got elected that same week, my wife was diagnosed. We took the shots. Everything's good now. And I credit a lot of them shots for going through that very awful time. So I convey that to you, chiefs. I got my 5th. I'll stand for the first one if there's a 6th. Our kids love us. Let's stay a little bit longer for them. I made a commitment to make sure we will continue listening and always getting answers to First Nations needs. And they have identified a number of them. Policing. If I can, to start on policing, please, our prayers and thoughts. We had another First Nation shot in one of the western provinces yesterday, I think, by RCMP. It hurts when we hear that. Community safety. We talk about reconciliation right across the country, and every Sauganash politician knows and heard us already. I helped. I'm not immune to anything. We have issues and problems, and I help my kids as much as I can when I can. And I highlight this one because this will be just a breeze for me for helping my son in court. But when the judge asked me one specific question, Glenn, how much education you have? I just took a second look and I said, whoa, I said, no, Judge, I will answer your question. Nishnabeg, my age, I'm 67. We lived, we seen the harshest of the harshest. You asked me how much education I have, you had no reason, there's no reason you had to ask me that. But I'm going to say, it is, we got slapped around, kicked around, hanged in the coat room, in the closet. We were starved, we were raped, we were killed, we were put in the backyard. That's my education, Your Honor. I was hurt. Somebody said I should take that to human rights. We sat across justice people the other day, and I told them this story, and I said to them, I will not push it as some ministers are asking me to, because you will beat me in court. But I will share this story everywhere I go. Don't treat us like that. Don't ask me how much education. But for you, I have none. My education are right here. Every one of you, starting with the elders. Look how far they brought me. I say miigwech to you. And the well-being is a high priority for our communities. First and foremost, I'm a voice for them. I bring their voices wherever I sit, and it's not easy sometimes. But it is, they ask me, and I bring it there. If we want to deal with something, put it on the table. Don't go around it. I don't enjoy some of them, but I am doing my job. I hear my colleagues that it's hard. So we continuously ask for your support. Thursday, the Prime Minister will be here. If I'm here, I'll sit down. I will be here because the Eagle staff were the last ones to leave. But I met with him the other day. First time in 5 years, he gave me 2 minutes. I don't want another 2 minutes. 2 minutes for 5 years of something. That hurt me, still does. But chiefs, take the opportunity for your communities and your citizens to meet with him. I encourage it. I hope he gives you more time. So, a couple more. I want to say miigwech to the chiefs that invited me to signing ceremonies with the hydro partners in hydro now in Ontario, energy, the windmills, and some mining companies. This is what we've always been asking for, chiefs, you chiefs, is to be part of revenue. And we're starting to see some of it now come to reality. In closing, the number, this is 37 years for me now, chiefs. I've sat here many, many, many sunrises with Elmer Crochane, former AFN elder. Sometimes we would only be the two of us, but he said, Chief, it's okay, let's go. Let us remind our leaders, never forget the young ones. Don't forget the children. They will be sitting up here someday. Don't forget them. So with that, Chiefs, we have lots of work to do. And again, I welcome safe travels from me to you when we go home. It's Christmas. To the homeless, I reach out. Let's not talk about them. Let's reach out to them. Let's not use paper. Let's use your hand. That's what they want. They know we're talking about them. They told me that. Come and see me first if you want to talk about us. Don't make anything up there and then come here and think we're going to follow you, what you say. I'm with them. So, Miigwech, Gimak, Executive and National Chief, aho.
Miigwech, thank you very much to Regional Chief Glenn Hare, and Miigwech for the words in the language. I almost stood up and asked Regional Chief if we could do a selfie, but I don't know how to say selfie in our language. So somebody said we look alike, but I don't think so. Much later here. Anyway, with that, I'd like to now call upon National Chief Roseanne Archibald for her opening comments and opening remarks for this assembly. National Chief.
First of all, I'd like us all just to take a collective deep breath because I think we're all kind of holding our breath. So, Ninanaskawan Gasakitin, Wachimiswe, Okamakanik, Okamakanish Gashehawk, Nesta Oshkanilak, Roseanne Archibald Natishnigasan, Dagotagmo Ishkatalkoachian. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. First, I'd like to acknowledge the Creator, the world around us, and our place within it. And miigwech to the Anishinaabe Algonquin nations for welcoming us to their traditional, unceded, unsurrendered territories. And I acknowledge our Zoom participants on the traditional territories that they are on as well. Miigwech to our host officials, Chief Dylan Whiteduck, Kitigan Zibi, and Ontario Regional Chief Glenn Hare for hosting us and welcoming us. Miigwech to Elder Wayne McKenzie and Kokomas Roberta Oshkabewisons for the sunrise ceremony and the prayers that were lifted up by 5 pipes this morning. I also want to say miigwech to Elder Rose Baudouin for opening our gathering in a good way. And I wanted to acknowledge the drum, the Eagle River Singers, and all of the sacred items that are connected to this meeting all across Turtle Island. Miigwech to our co-chairs, Weena and Adam. I want to thank you in advance for getting us through a very full agenda. We plan on having a productive and positive meeting, and we're determined to get the work done. Welcome to the 2022 Special Chiefs Assembly. We made it, Chiefs. Thank you for continuing to stand by me and the regional chiefs. We've overcome many barriers and difficult moments since July. We've kept moving, as Rose talked about, like the sacred Nibi, water, that we hold as sacred and that we fight to protect. Water holds important knowledge about life. One of my favorite quotes is, "A river will cut a new path whenever it meets an obstacle." And together with the regional chiefs, we navigated the complications arising from the changes that were proposed at the AGA. And change, even positive change, will always be met with drawbacks and discomfort. But we kept moving along what we call the healing path forward. As national chief, I had to remain grounded and to remember that peace begins with me. This week, we're gathering in the spirit of healing, in the spirit of cooperation, and in the spirit of lifting each other up. I spent 33 years in leadership cleaning up political messes, and I continue to stand for truth, transparency, and accountability. I campaigned on those values. I've stood by those values. And they're why I stand here today as your duly elected national chief. The most important issue facing my work as national chief is intergenerational trauma. I recognize that I am an intergenerational trauma survivor. I often quote Dr. Pamela Toulouse, who wrote that 100% of First Nations people suffer from intergenerational trauma. 100%. That's the direct impact of those institutions of assimilation and genocide. The events that led up to and occurred during the AGA are an example of the reverberations that continue today from those institutions. Yesterday, we met as an executive committee. We discussed our imminent need to demonstrate to you, chiefs, our leadership, that we are supporting each other, that we are getting to work. And we are serious about that work with a plan to walk the healing path forward. This healing path is made with you and your communities in our minds and in our hearts. It's one that is respectful of regional and community concerns and needs. Our plan is based on some fundamental principles that we discussed yesterday. One, we will not perpetuate this ongoing conflict. We will be respectful, and inclusive, and unified. And we will avoid unhealthy situations and seek the help of a mediator to move us back into productive dialogue and work. You've trusted us to resolve this. Now, with that trust, we're going to be doing the necessary work in the background to fix our issues at the relationship and organizational level, while we work with you on your community and region's issues in the forefront. We will not let you down. Together, we can demonstrate for everyone watching that we can free ourselves from the colonial mindset forced upon our families. We have a sacred responsibility to break the cycle for future generations. Let's remember that conflict is inevitable, but it is a source of all growth and an absolute necessity if one is to be alive. As we keep walking, the regional chiefs and I will model for others how to come back together after a serious conflict. There are items that we need to move forward on, and we can't spend another minute, never mind a chiefs' assembly, in turmoil. Our people are watching, and they're counting on us to create much needed, positive, and transformational change that will make their lives better. Yes, there are still HR and legal matters that we will resolve in the coming months. We will continue to do so in a good way, illuminating truth, transparency, and accountability, because we know that these are honorable and worthy causes. In the months since the AGA, I've made every effort to heal and create harmony in the working relationships that I have with regional chiefs. In the new year, former Justice and Senator Murray Sinclair will be assisting us with conflict resolution and mediation. In the meantime, I've heard loud and clear from chiefs across Turtle Island, from leadership across Turtle Island, that our important work must continue and not be slowed down by inner conflicts at the AFN. You'll notice that I traveled to many communities since the AGA, all across Turtle Island, and people ask me, why are you traveling to communities so much? And I tell them, I need to be connected to the people that I serve, to listen to them, to sit with them, not only celebrate with them, but to grieve with them. I'm not the national chief who will sit in my office in Ottawa. I'll be on the ground level as well as high level. I care about community-based issues and community-based solutions. Even though it's a national position, I'm always considerate of how our work impacts communities. I've crisscrossed Turtle Island this year, going from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, traveling through BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Quebec, Ontario, and Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. I was humbled to meet many of you and hold in my heart your triumphs with great reverence, but also bearing witness to your sorrows. Many of our communities are hurting, and our visits impacted me in deep and profound ways. This year I attended funerals, vigils, placed flowers at grave sites in Red Earth Cree Nation for little Frank Young, Pimachikamak Cree Nation for Chief Alex James, Louis Bull for Frankie Wayne Munias, and James Smith Cree Nation for those who lost their lives in the senseless tragedies of September 4th. In November, I learned how much our people are so caring and generous when I tested positive for COVID and spent my isolation period there. In my travels, I was happy to participate in graduations, a celebration in Musqueam, as well as several ceremonies along the Powwow Trail, including stops into Kamloops, Kehewin, Pikwakanagan, Kettle and Stony Point, and the Niagara region with one of my sheroes, Phyllis Webstad. It's always an honor to be invited to your cultural ceremonies. These heal us, they revitalize our teachings and traditions. I want you to know that you matter, that your voice matters, what you say matters, and the direction that you give us matters. I know who's at the heart of this organization, and I need to be close to that heartbeat, the heartbeat of our people. No matter what happens, it's important for us to focus our energies on citizens who need us to advocate and work on their behalf, to lift them out of poverty into prosperity, to move them from moldy homes into safe homes, and to end the apprehension of our children through long-term reform of the child welfare system. While we are healing from intergenerational trauma, I can tell you that one day soon, we will move from being survivors to thrivers. I know that this kind of eternal optimism is what we need. Our little ones need it. Our families need it. Our communities need it. In the National Chief's Office, we've accelerated our work on evolving and updating the PBM MOU with the federal government, as well as submitting a proposal to establish a national prosperity table. There have been many moments in what I like to call herstory, where it was my honor to represent you as National Chief. For example, being one of the 2,000 who were invited to the funeral of our longtime treaty partner, the Crown, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, greeting the Pope when he arrived on Turtle Island for his apology in Musqueam, and recently attending the Grey Cup as the first National Chief to perform the official coin toss, which was a lot of fun. But for the second half of my term, there are many other priorities around healing that I'm looking at, including a renewal of our relationship with the Crown, the establishment of a national healing fund, and ensuring that MMIWG is actioned to ensure safe and protection for our women, and finally, to realize a future where our sisters are loved and cherished and treated with dignity and respect always. I want people to know that I'm not doing this by myself. I'm lucky to have like-minded and like-hearted people in the National Chief's Office, and I want to introduce you to them. And I'd like them to stand when I say their names. My Acting Chief of Staff, Joyce Hunter, my Senior Executive Assistant, Samantha Lickers, my Special Advisors, Donna Simon and Mel Vero, our new Executive Assistant, Dana Hickey, and our Director of Communications, Andrew St. Germain, and our Junior Communications Officer, Cameron White-Eye. We also have Casey Atchingham, who's our Women's Initiative Coordinator, and online we have Ashley Albert, who does our policy work. So thank you for giving them a round of applause. But for this meeting this year, we have a number of invited guests who are significant. Kim Murray, the Special Interlocutor for Missing Children and Unmarked Graves and Burial Sites, Minister Patty Hajdu, Minister David Lametti, Minister Marco Mendicino, Minister Mark Miller, but also joining us this week are Yves-François Blanchet, who's the leader of the Bloc Québécois, Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the NDP, our own Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau, and we will also have a message from the official opposition, Pierre Poilievre. But I'm looking forward to 3 successful days. I do want to say miigwech again to the regional chiefs across Turtle Island and to all of their staff. They work hard throughout the year. I want to acknowledge the Secretariat staff as well for the great work that they've been doing. And I want you to know, As a national chief, I support you. I support the leaders in this room. And I love you, and I'll be there when you need me. Let's continue to work on our collective vision of happy, healthy children surrounded by the love and care of their families, living in safe and vibrant communities. We have much work to do, and I'm prepared to do that work. Ninanaskamun Gasakitin. Ninanaskamun in my language means I am grateful, I am thankful, I thank you, and Gasakitin means I love you.
Merci, Chief Miigwech, National Chief. And now we arrived at the AFN Council's reports. We will now hear 4 reports. We'll hear the Knowledge Keepers, and then the First Nations Veterans Council report, and then the AFN Women's Council report, and finally, the AFN National Youth Council report. And we will invite them one after the other. So our first guest on stage, I will now please invite Knowledge Keepers Dr. Gwendolyn Point and Charles Zoom to join us on the stage, please. Thank you. And technicians, I would just ask if you could please put on the timer just as a tool. Always a good, it's helpful sometimes to know how fast the time is passing by. So if you could please put 7 minutes on the timer, but I won't interrupt. Thank you.
Te iatalato, shashkowet de hummel te squee, halkamel de hummel te stalo. My traditional name is Shashkowet. Language we speak is Halkamelim, and I'm Stolo from British Columbia. I'm honored and humbled to be the BC Knowledge Keeper and the co-chair with our dear friend Chuck Hume for the AFN Knowledge Keepers. To Iatalitzo, to our regional chiefs, national chief, to all our regional chiefs for all your good work. To Iatalitzo, Teto Etiayes means the good work being done. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional territory that we're on of the Algonquin people. We say Holmuch in our language. There's no term for white people or black people. Holmuch separates us from the ones that swim and the ones that fly, the ones that are rooted in Mother Earth. Holmuch is a person. So to Iatalitzo, to our dear families and friends in this beautiful territory. To start, I'd also like to acknowledge the dear elder for her words and for the prayer. And I always ask those, and I'm asking each one of you to accept the blessings that were given to us this morning. That's really what feeds us, sustains us, is our connection to the Creator. So to Iatalitzo for the song as well, the heartbeat. As soon as you hear the drum, everybody gets quiet. It's a strong connection, again, to the Creator. With that, the Knowledge Keepers have been working within this political structure of AFN since its foundation. And the council, I've witnessed over the years, providing spiritual and political guidance to the staff at all levels of the organization. And I know it makes a difference. The work that's being done is not easy. But it's so important. We have a notion of that, latsamata, latsathala, tishkwalawan, bringing the minds together and the hearts together to do the work in a good way. The Knowledge Keepers have also been a strong historical presence here and a part of the Assembly of First Nations. We've worked to ensure the best balance is fair and equitable to keep our traditions and values, languages, and our history at the forefront of everything that's done. And of course, it was mentioned as well, our obligation to our youth, just as it was done for us by our dear elders and ancestors. It warms my heart to see the younger people standing with our leaders. That mentorship is so important. And the path that we're creating for our youth, giving them the foundation to carry on with this work. I'd also like to acknowledge we have two knowledge keepers that were brought to the council, and Barney Baptiste and Terry Fiddler. With that, I'd like to ask all the knowledge keepers from the different regions to please stand up, if you don't mind. I don't want to start mentioning names. We have the front table here. If you don't mind standing, I see Phyllis. It's hard to see with the lights. But we have another one, Alden, standing there. And the dear elders here on the first and second rows. Thank you so much for what you've done for your region. And it's a privilege to sit with these dear knowledge keepers. And it is, you're a lifelong learner, and I can tell you, I've learned so much about the history and the work that's been done in their region. So tsi'iya talitzel for all your good work. We've met, like everybody else, we've met virtually, and our in-person meetings have been limited, of course, because of COVID, to discuss the issues and challenges that face the Council and the Assembly of First Nations, including the finding at the former residential institutions and the COVID-19 pandemic. So I'm grateful to all those that have mentioned how important getting the vaccine is. COVID is still here. And the strains of COVID change. So that ongoing getting the booster shot is so important. So I appreciate the regional chief for mentioning how important getting those vaccines are. We also continue to review and recommend, have recommendations to improve our own terms of reference and provide that advisory role in the chief's committees by providing the knowledge keeper services. And I know for myself, I work with the Chiefs Committee on Education, and the elders have all been given a role for the different programs. We continue our work and involvement on Resolution 3, investigation and audit of AFN's financial and management policies that was passed in Vancouver. So with that, I appreciate, again, being a part of the AFN Knowledge Keepers and sending each one of you blessings for you and your families and your communities. And I tell the people, please know you are where you're supposed to be. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I also want to say thank you to the staff. We have BC AFN staff here supporting our region, and I know that's the same for all the regions. I want to thank the AFN staff. It's a lot of work to host one of these events, and I told my staff if they need help doing anything, I don't mind helping out, because I see how hard they work from morning till night to make sure that you get what you need to do your work. So it's a real collective effort that no one individual can do. So to all the staff, to Iatalitzel, Hi Siam, I'm going to let Chuck carry on here. Hi Tep.
Yes, thank you very much, Gwen. It's been wonderful. I guess her and I were elected almost a while back, and it's the first chance we've had to stand together and say a few words. And I think, you know, it's very, very important we look back and the ground that we've tread on already. You know, we've come a long ways, but we still have a long ways to go yet. And I know COVID kind of slowed us down, but I want to thank our regional chiefs for all the hard work that they do. And it's been wonderful. And of course, one I'd like to thank too is Sloani. She seems to keep me going. And I also share a seat back home with Mary Jane. And could you stand, Mary, and say welcome to everybody? Raise your hand, say hello. Yes. Realizing, you know, it's been yesterday, I guess, that we lost Mr. Duchesne, and 4 years back. And, you know, I talked to him a long time, and he always mentioned, you know, that the position that we hold is very important as leaders. And I think, you know, when you look at the elders, we are the definite leaders of our youth, of our people back home. And we want to congratulate especially our people back home. If they're listening, we're going to try our best to have a good working session. And it's important that we get the work done that's assigned to us. Our people are waiting for what we need to do here. And we are still engaging and try to help other elders within their region by sharing information and ensuring that everyone is kept up to date on issues impacting us all. Currently, we are expanding the role of council and representing regions with the appointment of regional representatives document. Knowledge keepers stood with and continue to provide spiritual support to the communities. Chiefs and members who were and continue to witness the finding of the horrible genocide and legacy of the institutions of assimilation and genocide in Canada. council will continue to provide assistance to the AFN Executive Committee, AFN staff, AFN chiefs, committees, and continue to provide support, guidance, and vision for all Quint Council activities. The AFN maintains its support for the efforts of the Knowledge Keepers Council. It is essential that First Nations culture and perspectives are reflected in the work conducted regionally and nationally, and to fully integrate the input and participation of the council into all its work. In closing, I want to make sure to mention, despite ongoing challenges that come with the pandemic, we have continued to hold hybrid meetings such as this. One, to continue our important efforts using virtual tools to maintain contact and continue to provide spiritual guidance on an ongoing, as-needed basis. With that, I would like to wish you and your communities good health and safety and a wonderful holiday season. And also, I will say a few words in my language. Dajan garat I dan manan shothan kukanta shu wa dajan danina shu shokuche kudo wa makuna rajena maduna kukanta shu dajan shoku ani. I said thank you to the people for letting us speak in this country. The people from this area, look after your children very good. We want them to be proud when we're finished our days here. We want to help them. Kunashish, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pointe and Charles Hume, for your reports. Thank you. Okay, just before announcing the second report, I just want to make an announcement, because as you notice, there have been some slight changes to the agenda up online, and I want to give you all an idea what is the planning. Because as every great assemblies, we're a bit behind schedule, the usual, but we'll get to Christmas at the same time. I'm kidding, but we'll adapt, and this is what we propose for the agenda for today. So I'm not adopting the agenda right now. I'm just telling you when we will adopt the agenda, actually. So we will finish to hear the three last reports of the council report, so 3 reports left, and then we'll break for lunch for 1 hour. And then we'll come back with a presentation with sign language with Marsha, and I saw Marsha. Thank you for being here. So we'll do that right after lunch. And then we'll do the test vote. So there is a test vote. We'll give you the registration numbers, everything. We'll do the test vote, and we have a new question. It's not the pineapple on the pizza, this assembly. It's going to be something else. But we'll continue then after the test vote. We'll do the motion to adopt the rules of assembly. So the rules of procedure, your rules, we'll have a motion on that. And then a motion to adopt the agenda. And then we'll continue with the resolution update. we'll have the resolution update, a quick update, and there's going to be the HR update on this as well. So at that time, and then we'll continue as scheduled on the online agenda. So you will have the resolutions that deal with charter right after, and we'll continue the day. But there is one thing that is really important to note. At 5:30 Eastern Time, we have a hard break because we have the presentation by a guest that will be there for MMIWG, so it's very important. So we'll continue to inform you, but we just thought it was a good thing for you to know where we are at the moment, because we saw that some chiefs proxies were wondering what was happening, so we thought it was useful for you to know. So thank you very much for your cooperation, your patience, and now, with no more delay, please join me to welcome the second report. So we'll have veteran Percy Joe, please, for the First Nations Veteran Council. Percy Joe, are you present in the room? I'm looking at our assistant. If they, oh, okay, yes. Thank you so much. I'm a bit in my head, I guess, and I have my watch here that is a notification. I receive a notification that my heart is going too fast. So I think I better sit down. So thank you very much. Welcome.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the unceded territory of the Algonquin people, and I'm happy that they have allowed us to do our business in their territory. I also like to acknowledge the presence of our national chief, regional chiefs. Thank you very much for the hard work you do for the people. I'm sure they're very happy to be able to see you if they're out there somewhere in the TV land or whatever. The First Nations veterans have a long history of Assembly of First Nations who have been part of the Assembly since the development. The Council itself is comprised of First Nations veterans, some who have fought in international wars and conflicts, and which includes peacetime through peacekeeping missions across the world. As a council, we are striving to assist First Nations veterans, families, and communities. The intention of the First Nations Veterans Council are to ensure that we can provide a voice and concerns raised by many First Nations veterans who have suffered from the trauma of service or war and the impact it's had on the families over generations. We have also like to extend a welcome to the representatives elected to join the First Nations Veterans Council this past year, just to show we now have representation from each regional across Turtle Island. Your experience and desire to work for the veterans' families and communities will help us to continue to do our part for them as well. The key activities and accomplishments. In August of 2022, the First Nations veterans met with the Assistant Deputy Minister of Veterans Affairs to address common concerns of the First Nations Veterans Council members and allied organizations, discussed the gender-based analysis work undertaken by the Veterans Affairs Canada, and to continue the development of a proposed letter of understanding between the Veterans Affairs of Canada and the First Nations Veterans Council. The LOU would establish our main pillars for discussion and to be more forward with the overhauling of the outreach activities that Veterans Affairs Canada provides to First Nations veterans, families, and communities. The four main pillars for discussion and consideration are the following. 1, the establishment of a record of all First Nation soldiers. 2, the assessment of a current outreach activities in place within Veterans Affairs Canada. 3, the creation of a resource position within Veterans Affairs Canada. And the 4th, commemorative activities. The Council also met with the Veterans Ombudsperson to discuss their work with veterans. In 2022, the Council has successfully hosted several meetings, and the areas of focus for the 2023 are the following. 1, planning and identifying, coordinating of First Nations veterans' participation in international ceremonies. 2, the First Nations veterans working sessions to plan key priorities and activities. 3, the proposed meeting for 2023 will include exploring working relationships and continuing to foster relationships with the National Veterans Ombudsperson. B, the Dominion Command, the Legion Group. C, the Veterans Veterans Emergency Transition Service. And D, the Veterans Affairs Canada. In closing, I'd like the AFN will continue to support the efforts of the Council while encouraging and inputting participation of the First Nations Veterans Council in assemblies such as this one. And we will continue to work to provide guidance to the AFN executive committees and AFN staff. We will continue to partner with the 2SLB TQQIA+, the Knowledge Keepers, Women and Youth Council, while maintaining a collaborative effort as a full Quint Council while focusing on the advancement of their collective strategy plans. Despite ongoing challenges that have come with the pandemic, we've continued to meet using virtual tools to continue our advocacy and important work. We will still be able to convey our concerns and use of the united voice to keep contributing, planning the development of policies which will have a positive impact on veterans, families, and communities at large. In closing, I would like to wish everyone and their loved ones good health, safety, and a very happy holidays in the future here coming. I also like to recognize and acknowledge the present serving members that are serving around the world, protecting our freedom here in Canada, and also acknowledge the families that are left at home waiting for their loved ones to return. Hamat, Kokshchamu, Kokoksht, Marcy, Miigwech, thank you.
Miigwech, thank you very much, Veteran Percy Joe, for the update. Again, we have 2 more council updates, and what we wanted to do, again, as co-chair Weena Siwi described, we wanted to do the council updates immediately after the National Chief's opening comments. So we'll do those first, 2 more updates, and then we'll take a 1-hour lunch break. So next, I'd like to call upon the AFN Women's Council presentation. Chief Connie Big Eagle is on her way up, I believe. Okay. So we're going to change the order a little bit here. Chief Big Eagle will just be, oh. We're going to, I can't see the lights. Is that the Youth Council?
No, Chief Big Eagle.
Oh, Chief Big Eagle. Now I can see Chief Big Eagle. So with that, we have the presentation from the AFN Women's Council.
Good day, everyone. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge Creator, another day of life and another day of breath. Greetings to the National Chief, the AFN Executive Council, made up of the regional chiefs, of course, all the chiefs from across Canada, councillors, AFN staff. I want to greet the elders, the youth, the women, and all the people in the room, and of course the AFN staff. I want to thank the elder for the, I think she called it, giving thanks to Creator. I appreciated her words. My mom was chief of Ocean Man before I was, and she always said that we needed our men to create balance. So I appreciated those words from her. So I am going to do the highlights of the written speech for me, and then I want to go off script a bit. So I'll do that first, and I'll let you know I am going off script afterwards. So the AFN Women's Council, oh, and I also want to acknowledge that we're on Algonquin land. So the AFN Women's Council, we just had an election. I was re-elected last, I think it was in August, for a 3-year term, and the vice chair is Doris Anderson from the Yukon, and I want to welcome a new member of the AFN Women's Council, Chief Joanna Miles from Newfoundland. We have been working on justice reform, calling for greater police accountability and justice for survivors and families. We're working on forced and coerced sterilization. And I also want to ask the Assembly of Chiefs to support the resolutions that we have coming forward, which is support for the family of Chantal Moore and implementation of the 231 calls for justice, as well as resolution coming forward, mandate to co-develop criminal code amendments for criminalization of forced and coerced sterilization. And next month is going to be the anniversary of my 20th year in leadership, and public speaking is still one of my most unfavorite duties as chief. So please bear with me. Plus, I'm going off script. So please bear with me. And I hope what I'm going to tell you now doesn't go by you. So I feel compelled not to stick with the speaking notes that were written for me because of what happened in Winnipeg, the 4 lost women there. And so I wanted to tell you about the heroes in my life who helped me become the person I am today, who helped me be a chief who stands here before you today. And of course, I want to acknowledge my mother as the biggest influence, the biggest teacher in my life. But I also had other people who influenced me, who helped me get where I am today. And when I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I'm guessing some of you are going to be able to relate to this, I remember sitting in a car parked in the back alley behind a bar. and our caregivers were in there, and they had bought us Chips Coke chocolate bar. And so there we were, as children, sitting in the car, eating our Chips Coke and chocolate bar. And time was going by, so I had an older cousin who was with me. She's about 4 years older than I am, so that would have made her 8 or 9 years old. And the reason I'm telling you this, too, I better clarify, is because these women are my heroes, and any one of my heroes could have gone murdered or missing because of the circumstances and situations that we were put in. And so here we are sitting in this car in a back alley. Time's going by, we're getting bored, we get out of the vehicle, we kind of play around the vehicle, then we make our way to the playground. Night comes, we make our way back to the car, and we fall asleep only for our caregiver to come in, drive us back to the reserve. But this older cousin of mine who was with me, I felt safe and I felt secure because she was 4 years older than I was. I felt like I was being taken care of. I was being looked after. She was a big girl and I was okay. And we were talking about those experiences as adults a few years ago. And it wasn't until then that I realized that she wasn't a big girl. She was a little girl. She was a child like I was. And I couldn't imagine her fear, or if she was like scared or worried, because I didn't have to be. I was being taken care of by her. And when I realized that she was a little girl too, as an adult, I cried. I wept for her. And another scenario is we spent the summer at my aunts and uncles one time, and they were addicted to alcohol, and they could be violent when they were drunk. So I had two older cousins who were both their daughters, who they'd have been about 8 to 10 years older than I was at the time. I was 6 years old. And so they knew that their parents were off getting drunk, and they knew about what time their parents were going to be home. And so just before they would get home, they would haul a bunch of blankets and pillows to the bush. And they would round us younger kids up, and we would go sleep in the bush. And so there I would be, covered in blankets, surrounded by my cousins, listening to the hooping and hollering and the yelling and swearing off in the distance. And these two women, older cousins of mine, are my heroes, because I don't know what would have happened if we stayed in the house, but because of them, I never had to find out. They protected me. They kept us safe. And another scenario is now, fast forward to, I'm 15 years old. I'm sent to Regina to go live with my auntie to attend Catholic school. And there were 3 teenagers, and my grandpa, my aunt, and this lady who, she lost her mother when she was 8 years old, and she grew up tough, and she grew up streetwise, and for some reason attached herself to our family. She was always in my life, always with us, even though she wasn't my blood relative. And she was also living in the house. So there were 6 people living in the house in a low-income home. And my aunt's meager paycheck couldn't take us through the month, and sometimes there would be no food in the house. So this woman, she would be around that time of month when the food was getting scarce, she would go somewhere. She would leave us for a few hours. And when she came back, it was usually late at night, and she would wake us up to eat Chinese food with her. And you know, that's a good memory for me, and it was a real treat. And she would have money to get us groceries to carry us through to the end of the month. And so these are women that I honor. These are women that I love. These are women who kept me safe, fed me, and made me feel like everything was going to be okay. And it's because of circumstances that they very well could have gone murdered or missing. And I just want to, and I honor them, I love them, and it's because of them, they've contributed to me being here to share these stories with you today. And because of those circumstances, and because they could have been in positions where they went murdered or missing, I wanted to share that with you today to show you that I'm sure that I'm not the only one in this room who has those heroes who helped me get here where I am today. I'm sure that there's people in your lives who were in similar circumstances who have helped you become regional chiefs, or chiefs of your First Nation, or lawyers, or policy analysts, or counselors. And so with that, I want to have a moment of silence for these heroes in Winnipeg who went missing and murdered and missing. Morgan Beatrice Harris, Mercedes Myron, and Rebecca Contois, and one lady who hasn't been identified. And let's be their heroes. Maybe these people didn't have someone to be their hero, but I'm sure they were someone's hero, and I have heroes who were in those similar circumstances. And part of what we wanted to do as the AFN Women's Council was have a moment of silence for these ladies in Winnipeg and for all your heroes and my heroes. So if we could have that moment of silence, please. Thank you, everyone.
Miigwech, thank you very much for acknowledging and taking that time to pause with a moment of silence. And again, a big thank you for the presentation from the AFN Women's Council, Chief Connie Big Eagle. Miigwech. So next, one more council update. We have the AFN National Youth Council. Rosalie Labillois will be coming up, and I believe there's two, and you can introduce yourselves. So with that, we will have the AFN Youth Council.
Hello, everybody. Dalisi Rosalie Labilwa, Dalewi Okbi Ganjik, Nigano Sukjid, AFN National Youth Council, Wulaliok Dandelbe Dayo, Gedwakma Dig Melgi Gnodi of Dandelian Grasul Dig. Greetings, my relatives, National Chief, Regional Chiefs, technicians, and also a big shout out to our fellow young people who are here in Assembly as well. I also just want to thank Chief Big Eagle for sharing her story. And, in recent conversations that I've been having with some of our young people, we're reminded of those who have come before us and being able to uphold those very special protocols. And yesterday I was reminded that it was the 3rd year anniversary of the loss of our former chair, Elmer Cushane, from Saugeen First Nation. And I know a lot of times in the work that I do, I reflect upon, if Elmer was here, what would he do? Or how would he support us? And, and able to help facilitate this space and share that reciprocity of this time and space that we're asking of you. I will start off in sharing a short prayer song, and then I'll pass it on to my colleague who is here with me. And at this time, I'll pass it to my colleague, Winter Dawn.
Thank you, Rosalie. So buju, bubundish nakaz, going igwanishna baywinson, my gandadam, mushishkinigamandinjaba. Hello, everybody. I'm a last-minute addition to today's presentation, but it's an honor to address you all. My name is Winter Dawn Lipscomb, and I am from Wishishkinigam Nation in Treaty 3 territory. And I'm so honored to represent my community, my territory, and my region. I want to express, on behalf of the National Youth Council, our thanks to the Knowledge Keeper for their opening for the Special Chiefs opening the Special Chiefs Assembly in a good way. I'd also like to acknowledge our portfolio holders, Regional Chief Adamick and Regional Chief Picard, and thank them for all their hard work and dedication to our portfolio. We're very grateful for the opportunity to connect with you and share a very important address to the chiefs here in Assembly. We stand here before you today, not for us, but for the children and the youth who deserve to have their voices heard, to have safety, to have someone advocate on their behalf. Many of us are here in elected positions. That is a privilege to hold the faith of the people who have uplifted us to these roles. Our communities are no strangers to grief and loss. Our people are hurting deeply. Every day, we face constant tragedy and hardship. Our families continue to be destroyed by systemic racism, violence, and trauma. We're sending our helpers and our protectors into a losing battle. Every day, they go out to help our communities without the resources that they need to effectively do these jobs. Those that are most vulnerable will be the ones to suffer. This requires us to collectively work on addressing these social challenges and respectfully build communities for current and future generations. Despite all the progress that we've made, all the time that we've spent talking about these issues, it is clear that we aren't making the progress that we owe to our people. We must come together in good faith and focus on our collective goals, not let ourselves stray off the course. We have eyes on us, not the eyes of the government, not the eyes of other organizations, but our people. How can we go home at the end of this week and be accountable to the people who believed we were worthy of the roles that we're in? What right do we have to hold these positions if we aren't actively trying to advocate on our nation's behalf? As someone in an elected position, I hold the youth that stood behind me in my heart, and I carry their strength with me. It is a responsibility that I don't take lightly, and so I urge you to remember that we must continue to show our youth that we are advancing their quality of life across the territories. What are we doing for mental health? How are we advancing discussions on safe drinking water, on affordable housing, food security? These are the priorities that our children, our youth, our families, and elders have at the forefront of their minds. Demonstrate that you care. Take action and show us that our futures matter. I appreciate the opportunity to address you during this assembly, and I'd like to pass it over to Rosalie to finish the rest of our address. Rich.
There are a lot of people that are not here in the room today. The everyday people who benefit from our commitment to advocacy and dedication to creating a better future. Those with lived experiences and those who carry traditional knowledge don't have access to this space and these conversations. We have a responsibility to go back to our people, to elevate grassroots voices, and to share knowledge with them in return. There are solutions that have been created at the grassroots level, waiting to be realized. It is up to us as leaders to shoulder this responsibility. Our nations depend upon us. They place faith in us to do the good work and act in their best interests. When we don't do the work, it is our children, our youth, and our futures that are suffering. We have to take the responsibility for our consequences of our actions and begin righting our relations. As leaders and decision makers, there's an opportunity to come together to support the nation and to protect the communities. The issues have been ongoing, and it is up to the future generations to continue the work of our predecessors, and we need to promote intergenerational knowledge sharing. It's very easy to identify all of the problems, to say that funding is a barrier that needs to change, but we must holistically look at what it takes to be a strong advocate. You know, this goes beyond requiring funding. We need resources that support mental health, the prioritization of kinship and creating safe community spaces, and accessing to our mentors and learning opportunities. Rather than thinking about how leadership and government could support youth, we're here today to say that we are capable, we have the knowledge, and we are ready to fulfill our roles as young leaders. We can't go back in time, but we can learn from our mistakes to guide our future. We need to put away the animosities and egos so we can work together in this very limited time that we have in these next few days. An active commitment is needed to pass the resolutions that directly impact our nations and our everyday life. So many communities and agencies are relying on us to carry this work forward. We call upon you with love and kindness to fulfill your purpose as leaders, to be deliberate in your actions, and to get down to business this week. We're asking you to move forward and to show those who are watching across the country and beyond that we could work together for the betterment of our children, our youth, and all of our relations that are dependent upon us. We're here for the love of our people and the welfare of our communities. We must not lose sight of that. Hold on to your communities and their relations and do not lose sight of their struggles. Celebrate their strength and incorporate their knowledge and experience and allow our ways of being to guide us forward. We are working together because we share a desire to see a world where all First Nations people participate fully in our social, economic, and cultural prosperity. A world where strong, healthy, self-sufficient First Nations communities thrive. We acknowledge the many challenges still before us, and there are many success stories, but there are still many communities that are still struggling to break down the barriers of poverty and dependency. We want to move past those barriers, and it will not be easy, and it will require a lot of work together. And before we can move forward, we must recognize the importance of coming to terms with the past. Our fight is not with each other. Our fight is for the protection of our land, for the protection and safety of our people, and for the recognition and assertion of our ways. Walalyo, Imsinogama. Thank you very much.
Miigwech, thank you very much to the AFN National Youth Council, Winter Dawn Lipscomb, and Rosalie Labillois for that presentation and actually very powerful message and song. So once again, let's give them a hand. So it's about 12:30. At this point, we will take a break. I know that there are several caucus meetings happening with food. If you're part of that, you're lucky you get food. Otherwise, you're on your own. There is no meal being provided. But we will be back here at 1:30. We will reconvene. Have a good lunch. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's just to announce it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just-
5 p.m.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to be back. Are we meeting?
We're meeting in the...
Now you say your son